All right, guys. So here, Brian. Brian, I appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So just love being a real estate agent off the bat. Very passionate about it. I've been a realtor for about 11 years now. Started off on a part-time basis. Did not like the business model. Reason being, it's like you're putting a lot of effort in and waiting for a deal to close, transaction to close. And there's so many moving parts and there's so many third parties that you got to deal with. It makes everything very cumbersome. So with that, it's like over the years working corporate versus, real estate. Obviously, I was more passionate about real estate versus doing anything corporate before. So I love being my own boss. But with that, it wasn't until, many years later where it's like job after job, company after company, position after position. It's like you realize it's not for you.
Yeah.
And I always was doing real estate part-time. I always had like a part-time job doing lease type of work. So I was always showing property and it was always within the industry. Not only doing that, but it's like I love doing projects as far as with the home, fixing things up, very passionate about that. So it's like everything is real estate related that I've, been doing all these years. So it wasn't until COVID happened where there was a lot of layoffs and a lot of companies not sure what direction they're going to because of COVID. That's when I decided to make the move after being fired from one company, which was a blessing. But after that point, I decided to make a move and go into real estate. And 2 years later, I'm still here and I'm so happy.
You're doing great with it. You're
Absolutely.
doing great. So look, I love to ask this question, right? I'm going to ask you what's one thing you just absolutely love about this industry?
People. Every company that I've ever worked for, I was always in sales, account management. So you either deal with sales, you're trying to get new business. And once you get that business, you try to maintain those relationships through account executive work, account management work. And in between is customer service. So you play all these different roles, but at the same time, you work for another company. But as far as like real estate, you deal with one client and that's your focus. And I've always, every company that I ever worked for, just been passionate about just helping that one person.
Yeah, it's those one-on-one relationships, right? That you get the opportunity to build and go through that process. We talk about a lot of sitting there at that closing and they're anxious but excited and a little nervous, and taking them through that process to close that deal. And here are the keys to your new home.
Even from the beginning of it's like, oh, I'm looking for this 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I want this many square feet. I want this type of yard. And a lot of these people, when they first start looking for homes, they're all over the place. It's like they don't really know what they're looking for. They don't have the vision.
Yep.
And that's where, the creativity that I provide as far as the construction that I do, I give them ideas when we go look at homes. We could do this, we could do that, or is this load bearing or not load bearing? It's almost like, watching HDTV,
Yeah, it's interesting because you're kind of giving them that guidance that they probably wouldn't see when they just walk into a house with bare walls, no furniture, right? And no, you know what? You could change this around, move this, extend the kitchen, make the bathroom bigger. So I could see how that would be a massive help to your clients.
Absolutely. And buyers are like completely distracted. If there's like bulky furniture in a room, makes the room look smaller. There's different colors. Oh, I don't like the color. We could paint it. You know what? And what separates me from a lot of realtors is like I do a lot of the work. I offer it to these clients.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So if there's, I don't want to say something you dislike, but if there was something you could improve in the industry, what would it be? And I'm sure the list is this long, but top one or two that you would absolutely improve if you could.
That's a tough one because honestly, we deal with so many third parties, and I'm all about my client, and I wish I can do everything myself because it's like I'm accountable for myself, and my goal is to make them happy. Problem is, we're dealing with so many third parties. We got inspections, we got appraisals,
title.
We have title, and but everybody's doing a job. We're doing the best job we possibly can, and it's like the biggest thing is to guide their expectations. So, although it's like I wish I could take on more of a responsibility, it's very difficult. So it's important to manage those expectations from the beginning so that it'd make things much more smoother.
And that's such a good point, because at the end of the day, that communication, which you want from all your vendors as well, right? Communication, transparency, it is all about expectation. And it's when we get into those points with the customers where they believe something's going to happen, whatever it is, by a specific date, and it doesn't, and then you don't have the communication, they'll let them know. Again, the expectation was, I needed this to happen on this day. It didn't. And of course, it falls back on the realtor always. Regardless of whose fault it is always the realtor's fault. What separates you? What do you feel is the fundamental difference between you and other realtors that someone would choose to work with you?
One of the biggest key factors is my level of communication. One of the issues that I had as a client, consumer, what have you, is lack of communication. When I reach out to somebody, I want a quick response. It's just...
Or at least a response at all, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want to wait several hours. I don't want to wait a day. Me, all the time, as soon as my phone rings, as soon as I get a text message, I'm answering right away. If I'm on the other line, I'll send a reply, automatic reply. I'll call you back. And then as soon as I'm done, I'll call them back. So that's one of the biggest things that, my clients love about me is just my excellent communication skills. Quick response.
And you would think in this business that communication should be the key focus, right? You're dealing with such a personal business, a personal asset and liability, all these things that are now going to be theirs, right?
Correct.
And they can't get people on the phone. I find that so weird. We just had a podcast earlier, and somebody who had said that now you're seeing the listings, no phone calls, text only.
That is absolutely ridiculous. And for those particular realtors, I wish their clients, their sellers, can see this and see how they're performing, and make them second guess, like, why are they using that particular realtor?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, COVID, to be a listing agent was relatively easy. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. You could list a property and you had a tremendous amount of, opportunities on contracts, right? You had tons of contracts and offers coming in. Now that's going to change, right? The market is starting to settle again, get back to its normal routine. So you can't just be that guy, don't call, just text. You're going to be forced to be a professional or move on.
Correct.
Right.
And I think we got spoiled like the last 2 years, where we had, if you had a listing, separate. It's different when you're dealing with a buyer at the beginning of this year. It was so difficult.
Yeah, of course.
Trying to pay above list price, above appraised value, and then just getting beat out by somebody. For example, it's like insane. I had one. We went big, kind of big, but it wasn't big. We went like $20,000 above list price, and $15,000 above appraised value, cash out of pocket, and we were like number 3.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Listen, we could sit here and talk about stories that, man, the amount of money people are overpaying for properties is unlike anything I've seen in this industry. I've been involved in real estate for 20 plus years, and I was around during the last refi boom and watched the market go up and crash the whole 9. But what happened this time was so outlandish. Before, we just weren't looking at people's credits and giving them money for nothing.
Correct.
But now, they'll come in and give you 100,000, let's say 30% or whatever the amount is, right? 20, 30, and even 40% in some cases over asking price or the appraised value. No contingencies.
Correct.
Cash deal, no inspection, no appraisal, nothing. And these people show up to the properties and oops, they realize how screwed they are. But hey, they did get a 3% mortgage rate.
I was always asking myself, it's like, where is this money coming from?
I know. Well, you got a big crypto boom, right? That was a big one. And a lot of foreign money.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people come, especially specifically here to Florida, a lot of people coming from out of state. They just weren't happy with, what was happening during COVID, obviously. So Florida we were open.
Correct.
We didn't really feel, if you traveled at all during COVID and you went to other states, it was a very different world.
Oh, absolutely.
Florida was very much like nothing. I mean, yeah, we had to wear masks and we took some precautions or whatever. But for the most part, we were open. We were good.
Yep.
So a lot of people came here because of that. We saw this incredible boom. And then when they got here, they're renting an Airbnb or hotel. I need a home now. And
I'm
now
staying a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Let's talk a little bit about the events, right? I always like to talk about this because you came to our very first one.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you've come every single one, right? Every month we've had it, right?
I'm always there.
So you watch it. That first one, we literally had 58 people show up. I had maybe 10 days to market it, spend some money, and I was paying to promote those events for probably the first 3 to 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely have grown now. We certainly don't pay to promote anything because they get sold out. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, so the premise behind them, networking, all that. What do you truly like about the events?
The events not only
besides the VIP section,
not only gives me time to get away from home, but also just to network and get with other realtors, other people within the industry that we can vent, we can relate to, and also check out the trends. I mean, there's a lot of things that, maybe happen to somebody else that first time happened to them where it never happened to me. And then I get some insight to what's going on. Once I hear it from several other individuals, that's when it's like, oh, there's like a trend that I'm, for example, that 2-1 buy down that everybody's doing for listings that aren't selling as fast. I'm a prime example. I have like 2 listings. Thank God one got it in contract yesterday. Yes, thank you. But, we have to offer these other services because it is a buyer's market now. We're like at the beginning stages. So what issues we're having right now is that, sellers that are putting their homes on the market, they are pricing it based on, the highest prices that, we sold within the past 2 months. But what happens is that price point with those high interest rates, nobody's going to spend like $1,000 out of pocket for the, PITI in order to kind of live in that same home.
And that's a really good point. And to take to take a quick step back, it's interesting what you get from the event because every time I ask that question, everybody says something different. Mm-hmm. I just like to have fun and get drunk. You always have amazing food. I get to network. I meet buyers and sellers, investors, whatever. But I like the fact that you're utilizing these events to gather information and see trends. Right now, I haven't really heard that before. So
those are the niceties. So it's like, free food, free drinks, niceties.
Yep.
But at the same time, when I get that information, it's important to my business. Yep. Not only that, each event I went to over time, it's like I knew a slew of people. Every time I go there, it's almost like Cheers. They call my name like Norm.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I had to separate you guys with the VIP section.
Yeah.
So you had some time to yourselves now, right? And look, and you're right. As far as the market, and I just said this in the last episode that, it makes more sense to pay 7% on a property that's $30,000 under value than 3% on a property that you had to spend $100,000 over value.
Absolutely.
Right? And the mindset is there. And look, guys, I want you to remember when you're having a conversation with someone like Brian, there's certain things you should look at to understand the professionalism than the amount of research he puts into his trade. He said, this is the beginning of a buyer's market. It's very important to understand why that makes sense, right? If you got in the very beginning of a seller's market and took advantage, great. Well, now it just switches to a buyer's market. You have to learn how to take advantage. And this is why it's important to reach out to a professional and not go with the friend of a friend or your cousin or your parents or whoever that just got a license and sold 2 houses in the past year and a half. That's not a professional real estate agent.
Correct.
Right? Go with somebody that understands the trends, that's going out and networking, asking questions, going online, doing the research, and understand these market, swaps because it happens consistently and it is a good time right now because it will over time move its way back. So if somebody right now is thinking, hey, you know what, I'm considering getting into the market. Should I start looking for a condo for an investment purpose? Should I look for a condo? Should I look for a home? Kind of what would your advice be to say, hey, if is now the time to buy?
Very difficult to say. So as far as investment purposes, you could wait, and if you could wait it out. But if you have to buy a home, some people that have that need to buy a home like right now. They need to find something. Mm-hmm. So, but at the same time, they're thinking of renting versus buying. It's just very difficult to say. But the good thing is that there's deals to be made. You can negotiate $10,000 to $20,000 below list price.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can request at the same time a 2-1 buy down, 3-1 buy down.
Mhm.
So your interest rate's lower. So 3 years from now, 4 years from now, you can lower your interest rate. You can refinance.
Yep.
And at the same time, going back to your point earlier, where those people that are overpaying for their home, yeah, they got a low interest rate, but they overpaid. So to chop down the principal versus buying now, where you're negotiating $10,000. You know how long it takes to pay down $10,000 to $20,000 of principal?
Yeah.
Versus $100,000 in negative equity.
Correct.
Right? Because we're seeing that. I mean, it really is crazy. And a lot of these people had to put that money out of pocket.
Yeah.
They couldn't go finance 100, back in 04 and 05, we were financing people at 125% with a 575 credit score.
I don't understand.
Right?
Like, where were the regulators on that?
Let me tell you, we could talk about that for days on end. And I always tell this one story about a guy named Bob. I don't want to put his last name out there, right? But his real name
use Bob.
His real name was actually Bob,
Okay.
right? He sold he sold cars that people couldn't afford anymore. You take over the payments. So, but I won't put Bob Elstein out there. Anyway, we ended up getting a $685,000 property with 125% financing, and he had a sub 500 credit score.
Oh my God.
How does that even happen?
I know.
Right? So, you got to think about how different the world was back then. We were getting loan paperwork in. If you had it into us by 2 p.m., we closed that evening. Period.
Wow.
Think
So
about how
did they
crazy
just
this is.
not check? Like, I don't understand.
I
I,
don't think
obviously
anybody was
wasn't
checking
around.
at
But
So
time.
how long have you been in the business?
11 years.
11 years, right? So you came in right after all that mess, right?
Correct. But I've been following it.
Yeah. So
and I watched the movie Big Short. So
exactly. So I'll give you a typical loan process. Hi, Victoria. My name is Shane. Here's the deal. You want to buy a home? Great. How much money do you make? Right?
Mhm.
And you tell me 55,000. Are you sure? What do you mean? Well, because if you made more money, you can get a better home. Well, I make 500,000. Okay, perfect. 500,000. Right?
But you didn't have to prove anything?
No, it's called stated.
yeah.
Stated assets,
Wow.
stated income. So you didn't have to provide any type of verification whatsoever. You just stated.
Wow.
So that's why they were called liar loans for a reason. And look, and that also goes to show that's why we won't see a crash now like we did then. Everybody keeps talking about,
They keep
it's
talking about
08
that.
all over again.
Yeah.
Even if the bubble bursts, and this is the one fundamental key. So if you don't understand why the real estate market is not going to crash again like it did in 08, is that even if you paid $200,000 or 20, 30% over the value of the property, you could still afford that payment, right? So you could lose 50% equity in your property. You're still making the payment that you could afford unless your economic situation changes and you lose your job or whatever. But ultimately, you were able to provide documentation of your income, assets, et cetera, that you could afford that payment. So the equity value doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Back then, you were getting to loans, a interest only at 2%, adjustable rates, all this crap that at some point your $1,400 mortgage was $5,000 and you couldn't afford it.
And another factor that it changed too, with condos. So condos back then, you could do FHA, and then you could buy. I don't know if they allowed the 0% down. They probably did.
Yeah,
but they did change it to the point where you have to put 20% down if they didn't have like enough reserves or anything like that, or 10% down. But regardless, you had to put some sort of money down. So if we do have like a downturn, and I don't know if they allowed them to pull out equity HELOCs where they can pull out. I think they have to wait a certain amount of years.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so I don't think
it also
anybody's
depends on
doing
the
that either.
association. It also depends on the association.
Sure.
But I will tell you this, what's interesting about you brought that up. A lot of people don't realize too, if you look at the condo docs or HOA docs, look into the bylaws.
Yep.
And if you got a loan.
Nobody reads that, by the way.
Nobody, but you should. And listen, pay attention here, guys, because if you have a loan that exceeds those limits, that mortgage is null and void.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that.
What?
Yes, that's how I get some of my properties, actually. So you find the communities here. And so let's just say the original loan, they're supposed to put down 20% or 15%, whatever the bylaws say.
Mm-hmm.
And that loan is outside of those guidelines. Now, there's a little more legal, things that you have to handle. I'm not going to give away all my trade secrets, but I look for those a lot because now I can go back and in essence, okay, that's called a voided mortgage. You go to court, show them, hey, look, this is not a legal loan. They provided 84% financing instead of 80%, blah, blah, blah. And again, there's some legal aspects to it, but that mortgage could be voided.
We got to talk about that because we were talking about earlier as far as when's the best time to buy. Honestly, my eyes are looking right now. So from now until, how things continue to go, I'm looking out for another opportunity to purchase again.
And look, too, we always talk, everybody's so fixated on this interest rate. 5 to 7% interest was a normal interest rate.
It was.
The only time it gets so crazy is when things like this happen.
Correct.
You know, you have now 9/11 and we go back to history every 20 years, but
Yeah.
it takes some crazy event to bring us down to 1, 2, and 3%.
Correct.
Right? So a 5 to 7% interest rate is normal. All that means is you're going to be paying a normal mortgage. So when it's down to 1, 2, 3% or whatever, you can certainly get more home for your money. But realistically, in that 5 to 7% range, you're just going to be relative to what your income bracket is.
True. And the home prices will adjust. It's not going to go to the point where back in 2009, 2010, where, it was ridiculously low.
Yeah.
I wish I would have snatched up more properties then.
Right.
But everybody prior to that were buying property, using their equity that they didn't have. It was like appreciated, and they were allowed to pull from that, which was crazy. And then purchasing other property and continue doing the same.
Look, I had people literally between 6 and 12 months pulling equity from the property and buying something new.
Yep.
And I mean, that was my pitch almost. I said, look, in 12 months, you refinance, pull out all the equity, get 125% finance, 110%, 150%, whatever, pull out all the equity, put all of your payments for that year into a trust account, whatever's left over, invest into another property. So you're pulling enough equity to pay off your own mortgage. Every month that payment's paid.
Yeah.
And you're buying another property and you're just doing the same thing and same thing and same thing. And I would show them how to take 10 properties. All the additional funds go to paying off the first one, then the second, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the market ends up coming out. So that's what happens.
Yeah.
But there's actually a way to do that now as well. You just have to be a little more strategic about it.
And I guess there's more time they have to wait before you can pull that money out or do something with it.
Yeah, well, you're also not appreciating 28% a year, Yeah. So it's a little bit different. But no, it's definitely a different world, a different market than it used to be. And listen, in another 15 years, we're going to have something else happen that this is going to adjust. God only knows what that's going to be, but it's going to happen and we'll be sitting here talking about 2 and 3% interest rates again,
Down the road.
Yeah. It was a fun ride. And look, a lot of the people who got in this industry recently will not be having that conversation.
No.
Yeah.
Unless they're getting back into it because of some other event. But ultimately, we're just as the market is adjusting to a buyer's or from a seller's to a buyer's market, it's also adjusting from a part-time to a professional market. Meaning there's guys that came in and, they just got their license and they became a listing agent, got lucky and just had every day was picking up a new listing or people buying like crazy. That's going to change. It's just not reality.
Absolutely. Over time, it's going to weed, those folks out who, got lucky at that time during a hot market. But if it's not for them or if they can't continue with, the way the industry is going, then they'll weed them out.
Being a real estate agent is not an easy job. Your main work is typically happening outside of everyone else's business hours. So your weekends are typically full, your nights, your lunch hour. When other people have time from their jobs, they're looking to work with you, right?
My weekends are other people's Mondays and Tuesdays.
100%. So now again, with this market, it was very, very easy to make money.
Yeah.
And those people that, when I hear somebody say that I work 30 hours a week as a realtor, right now, but that's not going to be forever because you're going to make some major adjustments because this is why I love being in the title business, by the way, but let's just say there's 100 homes being sold every day, right? During this time period, there was 100 realtors selling 100 homes. As things tighten, there'll be 10 realtors still selling 100 homes. But where are you in that 10? Are you in the top 2%, 20%, 50%, 90%?
Excellent question.
Where are you going to find yourself?
Exactly.
And that's really the key difference.
Yeah.
Buyer's market or seller's market, homes are selling, right?
Correct.
That's why I love title because I'm here no matter what, right? It doesn't affect me. There's a shock factor. Like right now, it was like, oh my God, the market is just, I'm over. We're done. What are we going to do? Everybody's stressing out, freaking out. And we're spending more money on marketing, more money on events.
That's the key. So,
yes.
During this time, a lot of realtors are freaking out. It's like, what am I going to do? For example, me, it's like, the past 2 years, I always had a transaction going on. It wasn't until, it only lasted a week. Okay. So I only had no transactions going on. 1 week, which is good. So I just got to keep that going, keep the pipeline going. And yes, you have to continue investing. And that's what separates you from other people.
It's also understanding that the market shock, right? So you had interest rates going up, things changing a bit. You had people who were under contract prior.
Midterms.
Midterms, I was certainly have a lot to do with it. But you also, it's so much change. You have the holidays here right now.
Oh, yeah.
But when you look at somebody who could have bought a house at 4.5% 5 months ago, 6 months ago, well, if they didn't buy that time, now they're looking at that 7-8%. They can't buy as much house.
Yeah.
So those contracts are canceling.
Yep.
People are freaking out.
That
Now's a change.
Go back to that inexperienced realtor. You get with a mortgage person. Mortgage person, obviously, they're gonna do their best to try to get you a mortgage, but at the same time, we need to be realistic, get the expectations out there. During the current, you have to do like a hard pull. Make sure you have like a pre-approval DU, all that other stuff. Make sure that they're current with the interest rates. Make sure the insurance has gone up, so that kind of throws their monthly payment off too.
Yeah.
So when they figure out what the insurance is for that home, because they'll just throw some random number, generic number out there, figures out there.
Typically lower than what's supposed to be.
Lower than what it's supposed to be. And it's like when I speak to my mortgage person, it's like, you know what? Just make it a little bit higher. Make it a little bit higher because I don't want to overpromise, underdeliver. I want to be the opposite.
Absolutely.
So,
and look, it's a good point on insurance because now we just had two big storms here.
Yeah.
Ian, which I'm doing a lot of work on the West Coast still.
Yep.
It is destroyed. And we're seeing companies, I mean, daily at this point pull out.
A lot of fraud.
Fraud is an understatement. But, they're doing filing bankruptcy. They're not covering in Florida. They're leaving Florida. So insurance rates are going to continue to rise.
Yep.
Nicole just hit the East Coast, so we have issues there. So that's a very good point. Make sure that when you're looking for these properties that you understand what the insurance is going to be as well ahead of time.
Interest rate, what they anticipate their interest rate. We did have I think just recently, the long-term interest rates drop.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a good thing for buyers right now.
Yep.
It's like lock in right now, before things do change.
And look, too, you always have to look at how long you're looking to buy this property. If the typical homeowner, right, forget investor, homeowners that are coming in, they plan on being there for a long time, a decade or two, right? Yeah. So unless we're not talking 12, 14% interest rates. When my first refi boom, the reason why I was called refi, we were calling people and they got a 22.5% interest rate. Hey, listen, I can give you a 5.6 and cash out $180,000 in your bank account in 3 days. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
Right? This market is obviously very different. So if you plan on buying a home to keep for an extended period of time, make sure it's what you want and the payment makes sense.
Correct.
The interest rate should never be your determining factor.
Definitely not.
And we're seeing that a lot though right now.
Yeah.
So,
and also as far as an investment is concerned, it's always appreciating. Homes are always appreciating. We go through cycles, of course, ups and downs, but at the same time, the trajectory is going up.
Yeah, the highs are always higher than the previous highs, and the lows are always higher than the previous lows, right? So it's a consistent up. Nothing in this goes straight up.
Yeah.
Right? It has to have peaks and valleys.
Buy low, sell high.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy low, sell high.
That's the dream. That's the dream cause, right? So now I got to talk about Peak a little bit. Obviously, you've been doing business with us for a little while. I know you're assigned to Linda. So Linda, shout out, even though you don't come to our events. Brian's very, very upset with you about that. What do you think separates us from everybody else?
The personalization that I have with your company as far as, Linda's my go-to person. And, I don't have to go through so many other people within an office to get to the person that I need to get an answer for.
Yeah.
And I have her personal number, so I can reach out to her anytime, and she's quick, very responsive, very knowledgeable. So that's why.
She is.
And I see this a lot, and it is interesting where so many people in this industry now are just trying to automate everything and, everything to email, automate responses, automate this, automate text. Why are we trying to get away from the relationship aspect in the real estate industry? It's something that's very hard for me to understand because my whole career, everything I do is built on relationships.
Correct.
Right? Relationships, transparency, communication. You're good right there, right? And I find it very interesting, the stories that I've been hearing about the other title companies in the industry. It's very different from what it was back then.
Yeah.
So when I got back into this business, I did some research. I went to some other events. Which always kind of, laugh about the drink tickets that they hand out over there, right? What's going to be funny though is at some point, the other title insurance companies are going to have to stop giving out those drink tickets because they're going to be being made fun of so much from us. And I also see some title insurance companies doing podcasts.
Some of them too. You got to pay to get in a certain charge, like a $10 charge.
Oh, what?
And then they give you a drink ticket.
Come pay
Still.
me.
And
Come pay me.
And I'll
to
still
become
just
my
give
client.
you, yeah.
Hey, look,
That's
they got to make
crazy.
money somehow, right?
Yeah.
The market's changing. So there you go. Maybe that's their new day. I should start charging mine. I'd be making a fortune. I'd probably make more money off the event.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, but we laugh about it. But when the service side of things, the issues that they're having in this industry it's very interesting. I'm not talking about any one particular title company. I'm not putting anybody out there. There are a lot of good title companies out there. But the stories that we hear and why people leave their title companies and come to us outside of our amazing personalities and fun events. But,
and how it works, it's like for me, my clients, they contact me, they want an immediate response, and I give them an immediate response. That's the expectations I have with people I do business with, whether a mortgage person, title person, etc. My inspection guy, it's like, I want a response like right away.
And you should. I mean, again, I always talk about this relationship aspect, that give and take. You're giving them a certain level of communication. You expect your vendors and your business relationship partners that, hey, this is what I'm providing to my client, or I'm your client, and you should be providing this to me. And I think that's, a very important aspect of this industry in whole that is really getting away with all this new automation. And look, we have automated processes as well.
And some things are great. Like as soon as somebody gets their escrow deposit or something, they submit it, and every party gets that information. That's fine. Got it clear to close. What have you.
Yeah. Some automations are good, but I think the relationship should not be automated.
Oh, there's a lot of questions we have in between.
100%. Do you think, I want your opinion on this. Do you think that COVID played a role though in just the lack of communication now? I don't know if it's the laziness in people, but just the lack of communication, or people wanting to automate things, or people not wanting to pick up the phone and answer a call, just text. Like, do you think COVID played a role, or not really? It's just kind of always been like that.
I think it's a mixture between COVID and perhaps just the way our society works these days. Everything's technology based, and they're always trying to streamline, trying to make things easier, trying to make things more cost effective, cut down costs. But at the same time, like, go back to what Shane's point is, just you lose that personal relationship. And for realtors, that's everything for us. That's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that is your whole entire business model,
is.
is that personal relationship, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so have you had the opportunity to take advantage of any of the resources that I know you're right now starting to build your
Doing
website?
a podcast now?
We're doing a podcast. There you go, right? There we go. What other, have you taken advantage of any other resources yet?
Website. So I'm at the final stages of getting my website finalized. I did create like a YouTube video, which talks about me as far as a realtor and how I deal with my buyers.
Okay.
Looking to do the same thing as far as with sellers, how I separate myself from other realtors, from other listing agents when I deal with their home.
Nice. I know we're about to launch a new brand for you as well. That's why I built out the website.
Yes.
Right? PME?
Yes.
Tell
Home
us,
PME.
Home PME. Tell us about Home PME.
So Home PME stands for Home Process Made Easy. Reason why I came up with it, it took me a while to how do I address this? How do I address myself and separate myself from other realtors? Home Process Made Easy. So for example, and dealing with buyers, the communication is very key. With sellers, communication is very key also. But at the same time, when you're listing somebody else's home, you go and you do like an inspection. Just after doing so many home inspections, dealing with buyers and sellers, you know what the inspectors look for. You know what buyers look for. So what I do is I look to see what distracts people from that particular home, see what we can do beforehand. So when we list their home, we could address many of those issues. For example, there was this one particular home that had like a dark green bedroom, dark blue bedroom. And what I do is, I hate to tell them to change it. You need to paint this. I don't want to do that. What I like to do is offer my services. I offer for free to paint their home, paint those areas, address those issues. Very handy myself. So change out ceiling fans, change out light fixtures. If it's dated, let's make it look more modern. So address those things to kind of get the most value, get it to sell as quickly as possible.
Guys,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
we talk about going above and beyond to make it happen.
I don't think there's any realtor that does that. If they do,
I haven't heard it, that's for
they
sure.
do not.
they'll recommend somebody. I have a guy.
Oh, yeah.
They always do that. I have a guy.
And they're getting their
and they'll
kickback.
they'll charge a certain amount of money to kind of do this service. For most people, it's like, I want to sell my home. I don't want to go through all this trouble.
And I want to put that money in my pocket.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So what's better than free labor?
Absolutely.
Free drinks.
And then for my buyers, it's like I do the same thing. After we close on a project, I'll help you with this project. I'll help you with this project. Let's see how we could save you money after the fact.
No, I love that. I mean,
awesome.
look, and that's what you're really building that relationship. You're going above and beyond, and those people are going to come back. They're going to send you referrals, and that's how you grow in this industry. And again, I haven't heard of anybody else having such a personal touch, right? So I love that. So guys, if you're watching, I mean, this is what we're talking about when we say dealing with a professional. All right. So if you're looking for a realtor who's willing to go above and beyond, make it happen, and help you see the new vision in the home that you're selling or buying, reach out to Brian Hernandez. What's the best way they can contact you, Brian?
Phone number, cell, text, 561-376-1694.
Home PME on Instagram, Brian Hernandez on LinkedIn. I'll put all his contact information in the description. I appreciate you coming out, Brian. And let's make it happen.
Thank you.
All right, good deal.
Well,